Hello, I'm Bryan Grantham from the Wayback Attack Show. My next guest started off wanting to update the software on the pinball machines in his collection. In the process of creating a solution, he made it possible for anyone to more easily create homebrew games of their own. Since then, he started his own pinball company and has released multiple games on his platform. I'm pleased to welcome Gerry Stellenberg. Hello,
Hey,
Gerry.
Bryan,
How's it
thanks.
going?
Hi, Bryan. Thanks for having me on the show.
It is a pleasure to have you on. I think that kind of like the story of your company is incredibly impressive and innovative. Pinball is something that's been around forever, but for the most part, until the fairly recent, everything was almost the same. What made I talked a little bit about you wanting to update the code on the games in your house. Like what brought upon that train of thought for you?
Yeah, so I was a collector starting in '97, had a couple games, and going into the 2000s, 2010, I grew my collection up to about 12 games. And as a player, I just liked, getting to the end of the game. I didn't care so much about score, but I wanted to get to the end of the game, get through all the modes, do all that stuff. And once I did that a couple times on each machine, that machine kind of became boring, honestly. So as a hardware engineer and a guy who likes to write software as well, I was looking for ways to breathe more life into those machines. And I mean, we all have computers, mobile phones were starting to become popular. We all have these gaming consoles. We have these things that are multi-application devices. So I was like, I have these multi-$1,000 pinball machines. How can I turn them into multi-application devices? And the answer I came up with was replace the CPU board with a custom circuit board that we could interface to a computer and write new rules for those games. And that's what we did. That board became the P-Rock board. And the story grows a lot from there.
Well, so I think that's really cool because, so it was like that was kind of like your proof of concept for, hey, this really works and everything like that. And then, a lot of other people and different companies even have kind of taken off with that idea and used it for their own. You typically, whenever like a company like, or a person like, you've had like Houdini and TNA and Pinball Circus and Dutch Pinball and stuff. When they're using like the P-Rock board, do you help them like with the development and that kind of thing along those lines?
Yeah, so it depends on what they want, but we started by obviously creating the P-Rock board, then we grew the product line into a second generation controller that we call the P3 Rock board. We enhanced it with driver boards and switch boards, and that's what enticed all these new pinball companies to use our control system, because they had an off-the-shelf solution that they could just use. They wouldn't have to invest, it could be years and millions of dollars in their own control systems. Right. And along the way, we developed software frameworks to give them a way to more easily program their games. A lot of the guys that started with the P-Rock are people that were hired by American Pinball and Spooky Pinball, and Josh Kugler for American Pinball, and Scott Denisi for Spooky, and there's a whole long list of people. Keith Elwin started with the P-Rock, and he got hired by Stern and has done a couple games for them. But the P-Rock platform, along with the frameworks that we've developed, is pretty easy for anybody who's an experienced programmer to pick up and just start using. So generally speaking, they don't need a lot of help. I advise on the boards and how to interface to the boards. People generally still need a systems engineer to do all the power configurations and to make sure their machines are set up properly and can handle certain situations as they design the machines, as opposed to a homebrew developer who might just cobble together something and email me a few times and ask for suggestions. But right. I help when I can. If it's too much of a load, I suggest they hire an engineer or something to answer kind of the more technical questions. But yeah, we support our boards and we answer all the questions for interfacing to the board so they can get a machine up and running pretty quickly.
Nice. So how do you think the P-Rock board that you made, like, how did that eventually evolve into the P3 platform that you guys are using now with your games?
Yeah. So as soon as we had the full set of circuit boards with the driver boards and the switch boards and the full P3 Rock board, we were able to start thinking about things we wanted to do with the boards ourselves. Because in my opinion, the pinball industry, even with everything that all the other companies were doing, even up through the 2010s, 2012, 2013, they're still making what I believe to be traditional style games. I don't think the pinball industry has seen much change at all, much innovation at all since the 70s or 80s.
Right.
There's a lot of change relative to color and pixel depth. They've gone from alphanumeric displays to DMDs and more recently to LCDs. And people have changed from black and white or off and on with incandescent lights to full color LEDs and LED or LCD displays. So those are the only innovations I feel like we've seen in the industry for years and years. And as an innovator, as an engineer who likes to design bleeding edge stuff, I wanted to develop a game that brought new technology to the industry. So since I had those boards, a friend and I came up with an idea to have an interactive playfield display. That's what we call it. So we basically designed this machine that would have an LCD in the lower part of the playfield that could detect the position of the ball. So you could have virtual artwork there, but you could also have the ball interacting with that virtual artwork, just like you would with your finger on an iPad or an iPhone or something. And then because we're physical pinball people, we enhance that by having physical aspects of the machine beside it, above it, and beyond it. So we have modular physical playfield modules that can plug in and out of the machine. And essentially, we took this touchscreen playfield idea, grew it into a full multi-game physical pinball platform. And we came out with our first game that we had Dennis Nordman designed. We called this machine the P3, and it's grown a lot since then as well.
Yeah, Lexi Lightspeed, I have played that before, actually at Southern Fried in previous years. And I think the game's really cool. It is definitely having that screen in the playfield is a huge, people walk up to it and they're just like blown away by wow, this is crazy, because I think that something like that goes a long way into helping to bring in the younger generations into pinball, right? Because they're so used to, like, my kids are more used to using tablets and that kind of thing than anything else. Like they have Switches, and so like they play normal video games too, but they spend the majority of their time messing around on tablets. And so when you walk up and like, it's like a natural thing for them to be able to interact with the game like that. And it's way more engaging, I think, than just having a static playfield like most pinball machines do.
Thanks for bringing that up, because related to the machines not changing in so many decades, we've seen the newer generation not really relate to pinball that much anymore. So kids these days, they grew up and they are familiar with the video games and consoles and handhelds or hand devices, but they don't really, you'll talk to most pinheads and their kids aren't really interested in their pinball machines. So it was neat for us when we brought out Lexi Lightspeed, the first game for the P3. I mean, it was neat for us to see kids would just run up to this machine. They would fully understand and grasp exactly what that touchscreen LCD was doing on the playfield. Whereas their parents kind of look at it and were like, what is this? This is new and different. Is this still pinball?
Right.
And it is still pinball. It's still very much physical pinball, but their kids grasped it right away. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it's cool too, because with the P3 platform being modular the way it is, I remember the first, I don't remember, you were on some podcast years ago talking about it, and I don't remember if it was you or the host was talking about how it's great for operators because the cost of games is cheaper, right? Like getting onto the platform, and then once you're on it, then just getting the different modules and stuff and being able to swap that stuff out really quickly really lends a lot to people that are operators, and it helps them to keep games fresh and easily swappable and stuff like that. So let's say you have an issue with something, you could just put another game in and take that module out to fix it up and that kind of thing. So
yeah, there's a couple of points there. One is the modularity is great for two reasons. You touched on a little bit on both of them, but the serviceability is a big one. So if something goes wrong on your machine, the entire machine really is modular. So you don't need many tools. You can easily pull out, say, the flipper assembly or the playfield module or a side target module or any of the major mechanisms. So we kind of say you never need to bring your tools to the pinball machine. You take your pinball machine to the tools. So if something goes wrong on your flipper assembly, you literally just pull it out of the machine, take it to your workbench and fix it. Or you just send it back to us or your distributor and they'll send you a replacement module. You slap it in 20 seconds and you're good to go. But yeah, the modularity on the games is a big thing, both for the home and for locations. As you said, on locations, keeping games fresh is a big thing because a lot of times people will buy a new machine. It'll be really popular for a month or 2 or 3, and then the earnings kind of drop off. So if you have an easy way to leverage the investment that you already put into the machine and just swap the game, it really helps keep things fresh in that environment. It keeps your customers happy to come in and drop more coins into the machine. So now, in 2020, we released our 4th full playfield module called Heist. It's super popular. It's being really well received. But the point is that that's the 4th playfield module for this machine. So for people who invested in the platform, with all the other innovations that it comes with, they started with Lexi Lightspeed, and then we had Cannon Lagoon, which is a playfield that interests more of the non-pinheads because it's a little bit of a simpler layout, and it's interesting for kids and friends of your pinheads, not usually your people that like real complex layouts and real deep rule sets. And then we came up with Cosmic Kart Racing, which is an arcade-style pinball game where you're controlling the ball and hitting ramps and loops and targets, but that translates into speed or direction of the video game-style kart that you're controlling. And you can race against friends, and you can do all that. And then Heist, our 4th game, is, as I said, it's super popular. It's the one people are saying is the killer app for the P3 platform. And this is something you put on location, and it competes favorably to any other game that's out there because it has super cool physical toys. It has great immersive rule set and a story, RGB LEDs everywhere, and it basically has everything everyone asks for when they're talking about what they want in the next game. And the modularity is what makes that possible. So we're talking. You mentioned doing it for not super expensive, but the P3 is $9,000 or $10,000 machine. But games that you add onto it, you'll swap in for $2,500, or Cannon Lagoon is $1,500. So once you make that big investment, it's super easy and super inexpensive relative to other new in-box pinball machines to keep it fresh.
Right. So as development has happened, because Dennis Nordman did Lexi Lightspeed, but you've I think Heist was done by somebody other than you, right? Like the actual layout, but all the other ones you did yourself, correct?
So I've been a part of the development teams on all games up until Heist. I was a pretty involved developer on Lexi Lightspeed. Dennis did the playfield layout and the game concept. I actually wrote most of the software. I do a lot of the rules development, and I worked with another guy, BJ Wilson, to do the graphical programming, and a third guy, Rory Cernuda, who did a lot of the on-screen graphics. And then Cannon Lagoon was actually designed, the playfield concept was a collaboration between me and Scott Gulix, who you might know from Wrath of Olympus. He was a P-Rock user back in the day, made that game, and was interested in helping with the P3. So we kind of came up with some simple concepts for that game. Cosmic Kart Racing was my design. I came up with that playfield design, and I wrote the rules for that. And then Heist, I kind of stepped aside and brought a whole team together. Steven Silver was the creative director on that, and we have a whole team of software developers. TJ Weaver is our mechanical engineer, and I kind of let them run with it, just so that I wouldn't influence the game with all of my weird and wacky ideas. They could develop something that hopefully would relate to a large percentage of the community. And they blew it out of the park. Really, it's a great game.
Yeah, I've seen gameplay of Heist, and I think I watched your reveal that you did, and it looks like an amazing game. I think that the addition of the third flipper on it, and just the different shots that you can hit with that makes a big difference from the other P3 games that have come out so far. How has that platform, P3's been around now for a little while, how has that platform itself evolved over time from Lexi Lightspeed to Heist?
The platform itself, honestly, hasn't changed that much from the early days. We had a pretty clear vision of where we wanted to take it, and the modularity that we built into the original platform allowed us to get where we wanted to be in a few years. But what we've done over the years is add additional features to it. For example, just this year we announced recently we have Bluetooth and USB headset support. So you can walk up to the machine, grab your headphones like these and plug them into the machine, or if you have Bluetooth headphones, you can sync them with the machine and you can listen through that. Cosmic Kart Racing, recently we re-released it two ways. One is we released an entirely new rule set for it. So whereas it was first an arcade-style racing game, it is now, it has that arcade-style racing mode, but it's also a three-ball game. So an entirely new rule set. When you hit the start button, you can choose whether you want to play the arcade mode or what we call career mode. Career mode is a three-ball deep rule set game that traditional pinball players really like. And then more recently than that, we added another pinball industry first, which is internet-connected head-to-head gameplay. So Cosmic Kart Racing, which is a racing-style arcade-type game, it just makes sense to have that working over the internet. So now it does. You can literally play against head-to-head against people that live anywhere.
That's awesome. Like, I've always thought that would be a really cool thing to do, to be able to add online multiplayer to pinball machines. How is there like a way for the game to know like if the glass is off or anything like that?
So yes, well, not directly the glass, but so people are. I mean, some people have expressed a little concern that playing head-to-head against people over the internet would introduce cheating, or if your machines aren't set up the same way, it might not be a fun experience. And I can tell you with 100% confidence, they're entirely wrong. Head-to-head gameplay is fantastic. It's a great competitive experience. It's super fun, and we're actually building in audio channels so you can basically talk to the people you're playing against, and so instead of just kind of playing against some random person on the internet, you can interact with them. But the P3 has a lot of features built into it that allow us to detect machine setup and whether or not people are cheating. And by that I mean we have a 3-axis accelerometer in there, so we can detect the incline and the pitch of the machine, the side-to-side level as well. We have the ball tracking mechanism over the LCD. So we know if the ball is being flipped from a flipper to a shot. We know if you're hitting a ramp with the flipper or using your hand to activate switches. In fact, Lexi has a cheater pop-up that pops up if you're activating the targets with your hand, because it knows you're doing it. So we don't really care if you're playing with the glass on or off. I mean, you might be fully playing a game with the flippers with the glass off for whatever reason, but we can detect if you're playing improperly. We're not currently doing a lot with that because we're just exploring the head-to-head gameplay, but we're certainly going to build in more cheat detection and maybe even handicapping situations where, I mean, we can detect the speed of the ball coming off the flipper. So perhaps we can detect if your flippers are dirty or worn versus someone who's got real clean, powerful flippers. And maybe you'll elect to enable a handicapping option, which makes things harder for the guy with strong flippers and easier for the guy with weak flippers or something. I don't know, but there are a lot of possibilities there. And yes, the system has the capabilities to detect and deal with all that stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I think that would be like, especially right now with people not really going out to places, like I think that would be a like huge benefit for like league play and that kind of thing. Like this week we're playing Lexi, and then this week we're playing Heist and stuff like that. I think that would be awesome. I think you'll always have the people who are afraid that it'll be unfair. So there'll be a little bit of an acceptance time frame where you'll have to get people playing it and enjoying it and seeing that it's really a neat experience, and it really can. I mean, you put two people against each other, and it will expose the better player just over the course of a couple games. Right. The how do you think, like looking into the future of P3, like is there anything that you've thought of, like, man, I like going forward, I really want to try to work on this aspect of the machine, or like maybe add this type of thing to like the next module or something like that? Is there anything future thinking that you've come up with?
Anything that you want us to reveal on a public conversation? That no. There are actually a lot of things that we want to integrate into the machine. Certainly, we want to explore ways of doing exactly what we're doing today, but cost reducing the manufacturing and making things easier to build and debug, so we can lower prices moving forward. If we could lower the buy-in point to $7,000 or $8,000, and you can still add games to it for a lot less than other games, I think that would be a big win for us. There's a lot of custom things in the machine. There's a reason the price is what it is. But moving forward, as our volumes grow, if we can build 500 or 1,000 machines at a time, then we can get the prices down. There's a lot of things we want to do as far as games go. We want to explore other gameplay styles. We have explored arcade-style racing, and we've explored kind of shoot-'em-up stuff with Cannon Lagoon. We have the head-to-head game called Heads Up, which will soon be internet enabled. But we want to explore licenses. We want to explore other types of traditional three-ball type of pinball games, and we want to explore things that are way, way, way outside the box as well. We have a friend of the company, is a customer of ours, Nick Baldridge, who's what we call a third-party developer for the P3. He's currently developing a roguelike game called Ranger in the Ruins, which is going to be a single ball game that actually has some features where if your character dies when you're playing the game and someone else plays the game somewhere else on their machine, they'll see remnants of your character and maybe pick up things you dropped or something. So there's all these different types of games that people have developed in the video game world, and different types of gameplay styles that may or may not translate well to pinball, but we'd like to explore a lot of them.
Have you guys considered working with any licenses or anything like that?
Yeah.
With games? Because you think, I think like the first like obvious answer is like something like Fruit Ninja, right? Like where, since you guys have that screen, like you could easily like use the ball to like cut things open and stuff like that. But any license stuff that you've been thinking of?
Actually, funny you said that specifically, because the first little mini game we talked about doing was Fruit Ninja.
Okay.
We talked about different ways of naming it so that it wouldn't be a license, or different ways of theming it so it wouldn't require the license. Yes, we'd love to explore licenses. The challenge for us is we're what I consider to be a startup company doing a new platform with new ideas and trying to build a customer base. So we don't have, and we're also, the important point is that we're bootstrapped, so we're self-funded. We don't have big investors backing us. We're just trying to build a company on the backs of the developer's passion, the passion from the people developing it with us, and from the interest of the hopefully growing customer base that we're developing. And so we don't have $200,000 to throw at a big movie studio for a big name license.
Right.
Yes, we could explore more cultish licenses or something a lot smaller. Maybe that would cost us $50,000 or $75,000 for a license. I don't know if people realize how expensive licenses are, but those are the kind of numbers we're talking about. But then we have this niche industry, which is pinball. The P3 right now is a niche product within that industry because we're still growing our customer base. So if we attack a kind of lower end license that isn't maybe super popular and doesn't command the big dollars, then how many people are going to be interested in that?
Right.
So I think it makes sense for us to build up our customer base, come out with a bunch of really cool games, and develop budgets big enough to go after some really big, really cool licenses. We have this playfield LCD, which no one else in the industry has anything like it. It's a 32-inch LCD, and we can do some crazy awesome things with either high definition real-time rendered graphics, or even integrating, I don't know, think of your animated films or real-time rendered kind of movie style implementations of game modes or movies or stories or whatever. We can do some really interesting things, and we'd like to explore that. But it's easier if we can start with some assets that already exist. Pick your favorite animated film. If we could get a hold of those characters, those digital assets, and drop them into the machine, and then just program where the guy runs, if he's running from left to right or right to left, or if he flips upside down, or if he's eating something, or whatever. That would get us there a lot faster.
Yeah, you could even do like existing video game stuff and just incorporate the existing assets into it that way too. That would be really
neat. And you know what, we actually designed, so behind the LCD on the playfield we have a full set of what we call walls and scoops. So between the upper playfield and beyond, or between the upper playfield and this LCD, there are literally 6 walls that pop up across the playfield, and they can block the whole width of the playfield, and just beyond them are scoops. which are 6 individually controlled pop-up scoops that you can shoot the ball into. The reason we put that in there is exactly because we were thinking about types of games like video games. Think of the game Space Invaders. You have the aliens running across the screen, and you're shooting whatever they are, bullets or something at them, lasers or whatever they are. You shoot that thing once, the laser beam goes off the end of the screen, and it doesn't come back down. It doesn't bounce around. Once it goes beyond the screen, it's gone. So if we lift up all 6 of our scoops, we can continuously feed balls to the flippers. You shoot them, they go into the scoops, and they're gone. So we could fully implement a game like Space Invaders. Or think of a game like Breakout or Arkanoid, which is where you shoot something, or you have a ball and it's bouncing around. It gets to the top of the screen, it comes back down, it ricochets around. So we lift up our walls, all 6 walls, we can keep that physical pinball bouncing around the lower playfield, interacting with virtual targets the entire time. So we can fully implement a game like that. So that was the genesis of the Wall and Scoop assembly, ideas like video games. Of course, we're physical pinball players, and we like the ramps and loops and targets and toys in the upper playfield, so we'd like to find a good balance. But we'd like to do a lot of full game kits with very deep rule sets and complex layouts, and then come out with these things we call mini games, which are some sort of virtual interactions or software games that we can play on top of the machine as it already exists.
Well, so talking about those, the complex like back part of the game that has the different ramps and scoops and everything like that, Heist is the newest game for P3. What makes that game specifically stand out from all the other ones?
Heist is the most complex game, that not just for the P3 platform, but honestly it's more complex than pretty much any other game out there. It has 8 individual shots, loops and ramps and side loops because it's got the upper flipper, and every single one of those shots has a diverter in it. So whereas you can loop the outer loop or the inner loop, it will allow you to shoot that a few times, and then it will activate a diverter and grab the ball and either remove it from the playfield or divert it somewhere else. So I think there are 5 different servos, which are controlled motors essentially that can control diverters or can raise something up and down. There are 3 different magnets. There's 2 ramps, there's a pop bumper, there's a bunch of stand-up targets, and then there's that what I consider to be the coolest physical toy ever developed in a pinball game, which is our crane.
Yeah. So
we have this crane that we developed, and we developed it because Steven, the creative director, wanted us to bring physical interactions lower on the playfield than a traditional P3 upper playfield module, which is restricted to more or less beyond the playfield LCD. So this crane is a mechanism that starts out about 12 inches long, and then I guess I should hold my hand this way because it's more coming towards you. It will literally extend down the playfield. So when it's all said and done, that thing can reach about halfway down the lower playfield. It can swing left to right, it can go up and down, and it can extend forward and backwards. And what we did with the end of it is we put a bash target on it. So as it's moving around, it basically can present a bash target anywhere on the playfield. But we also put a lifting magnet on the end of it. So that crane, as it's moving around, can hold onto a ball. And it can throw the ball at you, which it does in the game. It can hold the ball until you hit it off, starting a multi-ball, for example, like Mist multi-ball in Dracula. Or it can just basically hold the ball as a lock. So that physical toy is it's pretty neat to watch it in action and to interact with it, and to know that no matter where you're aiming, that crane could potentially get in the way and block you or present a target on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, I think it's so cool because like you said, like it'll come out at you and move around, but also like the up and down. So like, it can make, as it's moving around, it can make it more difficult to hit things because maybe it just pops up at the last second or something.
Yeah, there's a mode in the game called Crane Multiball where you're battling the bad guy who's controlling the crane. And there are times when it's low enough on the playfield that you can bash it, which is what you're trying to do. You're trying to defeat the crane. Defeat Mr. Big, who's controlling the crane. And as soon as you hit it, it'll raise up and stay a little bit higher for a while, so you're shooting the ball underneath it and he's avoiding you. So it's a timing thing where you have to wait for him to lower the crane onto the playfield surface before you can bash it and before you can attack him.
Nice.
It enables some really neat programming and definitely some modes that could never have been done before, which is a lot of what we like to do are things that have never been done before, for good or bad.
So what do you think is like your favorite part of Heist, of the new game?
This is the business and owner and marketing guy speaking, but beyond the technical stuff, Heist so far, we've shipped it to a lot of existing P3 owners, and we've shipped a lot of new machines with Heist to new owners, and we haven't received not one negative comment. I've not read a single negative comment on any forum or any website about the game. It seems to be universally loved, which is an amazing thing to say about any game, especially a new game for the P3 with all the other unique features in it. So the business guy in me loves the fact that we've created this product that people seem to just universally love. The engineer in me, the geek in me, I love the physical aspects of the crane and being able to use the upper flipper, but I think what intrigues me most as a designer, as a player, as a programmer, is just the complexity of the rules, because we're doing some things differently with the actual software in the game, where we have some multi-balls, for example, that are subtractive, where it'll spit out, you'll start a multi-ball. The one I'm thinking about specifically is called jailbreak multi-ball, where if you have some of your characters in jail, say you have 3 characters in jail, you have 1 ball in the playfield, it'll spit out 3 more balls, each one representing a jailed character. And then you'll shoot shots. You'll shoot these flowy ramps and loops. But if you shoot the one that's tied to a character that's in jail, the machine will grab the ball and remove it from the playfield. So your goal in this multi-ball is not to keep them alive as long as you possibly can and score a bunch of repetitive jackpots. Your goal is to shoot the shot that removes the ball from the playfield and get back to single ball play, which is a very unique mode, and it's super fun to play.
Yeah, I also like the cop car that like will like patrol across with the scoops. I think the physical representation of that stealing your ball is really cool too. So
yeah, we actually use that both ways, where occasionally the cop car we call it a police trap, where cop car the scoops on the thing will change from whatever color the characters are to red and blue, and it'll move across the playfield, and if you shoot it in there, your character gets arrested. At other times in the game, it'll be a green scoop representing an armored truck, which is carrying cash across the playfield. And if you shoot it into it, then it will basically dump out all the cash from the armored car, and then you can collect it by rolling the ball over the floating dollar bills that are floating down the playfield.
Yeah, I think the way that you guys do that is really cool, because, you know, having the screen have moving targets on it, it really creates different types of shots that you normally don't get in pinball machines, because they're all over the place, right? And so, you know, it's not just, oh, I know that I have to wait till the last second to get this shot in on the side of the game. Like it moves, and so you're having to constantly adjust your strategy and stuff. So. Yeah,
you're adjusting, and we call it infinite shot angles, because you don't know where those targets are going to be. We have a mini game called Rocks, which is basically a recreation of the video game Asteroids, where we have these virtual targets floating around the screen, virtual asteroids or meteors or whatever. And your goal is to shoot them with the physical pinball, roll the physical pinball over these virtual targets. And they're bouncing around and floating everywhere. So you might, for instance, have to shoot it into a slingshot to hit that target, or you might have to try to shoot up the opposite in lane or something to hit that target. So yeah, you're right. It enables a lot of new shot angles that you have to shoot while you're playing the game. You can't just rely on being able to shoot the same loops and ramps over and over again to succeed in the game.
Yeah. Well, Gerry, I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time to talk to me. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I mean, just keep checking us out. Keep following us. We believe that the P3 continues to add value, and some of our features have been released, like CCR 2.0, the career mode, the internet gameplay, the USB headset stuff, the Bluetooth headset, all that stuff we released for free. So any customer who owns a P3 picks up all those features for free. So we believe we're adding a lot of value. We're of course coming out with new games. We're creating this thing which is an entirely different paradigm from everything else in the industry, which is single themed machines, where you save up your money, you buy a new game, it takes up a spot in your game room, and that's it. You either keep it or you sell it. But with the P3 and its multi-game capabilities and the new features we're adding on, we're creating a new value proposition. And all I ask is that people give it a chance, try to get to one, whether it's at a show, which hopefully shows start up again at some point, and get to an arcade, or find a friend who has one, or just check us out on streams and videos and stuff, and see if it appeals to you. It appeals to a lot of people, and as we come out with new games, it appeals to even more. So give it a chance. And of course, check us out on the website, multimorphic.com.
Yeah, I highly recommend everybody check out the stream that you did when you revealed Heist, because there's you instantly see the appeal of this game, and don't when people think, oh, video and pinball, stuff like that, but like when you see the game in action, and I've played it, and it's a pinball machine, it's a physical pinball machine. It's just the added benefit of the interactive screen. So, but yeah. Thank you so much again for coming on, and
appreciate it, Bryan.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.